We're now listening to Wealthy Sistas Radio Show. We're now listening to Wealthy Sistas with Deborah Hartnett.
Welcome to Wealthy Sistas Radio. I'm Deborah Hartnett. This is a space for thoughtful conversation with founders, leaders, and creatives building with purpose and intention. I'm so excited today. We're joined by Hyacinth Tucker, an entrepreneur whose journey reflects resilience, innovation, and purpose in action. From leading an Allstate insurance agency to launching laundry basket delivery, Hyacinth turned a simple need into a scalable solution that serves both households and her community. This is truly a conversation about recognizing opportunity, building with intention, and creating impact that extends beyond the business itself. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Welcome to Wealthy Sistas Radio, Hyacinth. I always ask this question, like, what are the secret ingredients that went into what we see of this amazing recipe today? What led you on this journey? How you got started? And if you don't mind sharing that with our audience as an inspiration to them today.
Definitely. Well, I am a true example of that. Nothing ever happens by coincidence. So it's everything that has happened to me in my life over the past 50 odd years has led me to where I am today. And I had to kind of realize that, because at first I was like doing laundry, like I've done this, I've done that, and I've done this. And I, in my head, say all these accolades, but I'm just like, no, this is where I was meant to be at this point in my life. So as you said, first of all, thank you again for having me here. I've been a serial entrepreneur for about 2 decades now. So I started off having an Allstate insurance agency. I then went on to events. And so I owned 4 event venues. And then, life happened, right? COVID happened, divorce happened. And so I was at a part in my life where I lost, 2 major streams of income, from me. And so I was in a transition, as we say, right? So I was doing odd jobs. So we're talking about like Uber, Instacart, pet sitting, and girl, I don't even like dogs, but, doing what I had to do to make ends meet. And so July of 2022, I went and I visited a friend. And I walked into her living room and there were clothes everywhere. And I mean, everywhere. And we laughed about it, because I was kind of like, girl. And she was like, I know. And I was like, but no one loves to do laundry, right? There are very few. And I mean, like a handful of people that are like, oh my gosh, I love it. But for most of us, it is like a chore. It's something that we know we have to do, but we don't really enjoy. And so that wasn't even the thing. What it was is that she was buying new clothes instead of washing the clothes that she had. So that's when it got to a different level. And I was like, okay, that's not sustainable. At some point, you're going to have to wash these clothes. Now, she may have been a shopaholic as well, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is
another business.
Right. And so she looked at me and she said, I wish there was someone that could come and take all these clothes and I would pay for it. So to answer your question, so that was my roundabout way of saying, when I knew that it was at least something in my head, it was something that a need that someone has that they would pay money for, right? And so that's what we look at when we talk about businesses, because we can have as many ideas as we want to, but is someone is it so much of a need or a pain, as they say, that someone is willing to reach into that pocket and give you money for it in exchange for that, for you solving that problem? And so we started off.
Yeah, they call it the reticular activator, I think. The reticular activator, I've heard. Yeah.
Yes. So everywhere I went, people were talking about it on social media, like, oh, I hate doing laundry and this, that. So that is my answer to the journey, how I got started, and why we are where we are now.
Well, that's a beautiful story. And I love the simplicity of it. I'm on this, as you say, 50 plus this week, 57, God willing, Thursday. Yes. And, you can see this journey that we were on as far as trending business, being an entrepreneur as well, but understanding the simplicity of things that people don't have time to do, don't want to do, and
Mhm.
solving that pain point for
Yeah.
individuals. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like they say what is it? Necessity is the mother of all inventions.
That's right. Hmm.
Right. So talk to us about, okay, you had this light bulb moment.
Yes.
First of all, did you give her free laundry service since she gave you that idea? No, no, we're just kidding.
Now, yes. Before, no. It's a business. Never the business.
I know. And that's a whole nother conversation about
Yeah.
understanding the importance of business
Yeah.
and your background, your experience in business prepared you for this simple business to be able to treat it like a business. Because I can certainly see something with the simplicity of this could be used as a hobby,
Yeah.
perhaps,
Yes.
and not scale it the way that you have. So we definitely want to talk more about that.
Yes.
But the simplicity of us going on the journey of starting businesses, and sometimes, and I'm speaking to those individuals, especially in our time today where technology is doing a lot of things for people.
Hmm.
But for instance, I love AI
Yeah.
and I use it, as my assistant, not to replace.
Right.
You still got to know how to prompt and what to say and those things there for it, not to reshape my face or to
Right.
present
Yes.
something that's not authentic or real, right?
Yes. Yes.
So talk to the audience about discovering or that moment when you said, okay, let me put this into a business model, because someone might have an idea of something simple like that, but how do you put it into a model to scale it to, at least if it's a side hustle, to make money from it? Mhm, mhm,
um, having systems in place, right? Because
mhm,
now this was a
mhm,
little bit more into the journey. So honestly, at the beginning, it was more of it was me doing everything. Didn't have like a
mhm.
website. It was like kind of, just call me, like, somebody would tell you about what I was doing and that type of thing. But when we really decided to put systems around it, so like having like the website and the automation to it, because we
Mhm.
knew that we wanted to grow the business. And so I knew that I couldn't be the one washing, drying, picking up, answering calls, invoicing. Like it was just like it's just impossible to do all those things myself if I wanted to really grow the business from being a side hustle to a business. And when I say
Right.
a side hustle, it's not a business, so I shouldn't really say it like that. But you know what I'm trying to say. But
Well, you understand, from self-employed to business owner, like
yeah,
Robert Kiyosaki talked about the four quadrants. You want to move from that
right.
self-employed to a business
Yeah,
owner.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So for me
Mm-hmm.
and my particular business, we definitely needed a team. We definitely needed, like I said, like the systems, the automation that I put into place. We had to be serious about it because, as I, was going around and telling people about it, I wanted to make sure that our presence kind of, lined up right with what I was saying. So, we
Mm-hmm.
had to have, a business card and, profiles on social media. So when people came to look at us, like it was like, okay, let's see more about your business. So it was putting all those different things in place. And that was like, it was a journey. So it took us like a good 6 months, registering the business, having a business bank account. So instead of being like, cash at me or Zelle me or give me some, cash. It was like, we have like a invoicing process, an accounting system. So those are some
Mm-hmm.
of the things that we had to put into place early on because I realized that I just couldn't do it by myself. So some businesses, it takes, longer. It's like, being a solopreneur, but what I was doing, there was just no way that I could sustain that doing it by myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how quick, I would imagine, with it, you getting this idea during COVID, or you said, was it during or right after COVID, um, that you actually got the idea what was the time frame for you once you began to realize, okay, I can now hire more people? I have to do this. Where you could, because there's that window of where you need to hire someone, but maybe you're not able to. How did you bridge between that in
Yeah,
your in the mind?
yes. So it was definitely around, so we started July 2022. So this is when this happened. Around
Okay.
the beginning quarter, like so let's say quarter one, beginning maybe quarter two of 2023 is that when we brought in
Mhm.
help, right? And so it was family at first.
Okay.
It was family that was
Okay.
helping out because we didn't have enough, we didn't have like money to for me to do a real payroll. And then I
Mhm.
realized that there was like, options. I started working with some nonprofit organizations and,
Mhm.
they would pay for the staff as long as we gave them like meaningful work. And that
Mhm.
was one of the great things about us. It was kind of like, someone can learn how to do laundry, someone can definitely
Good.
drive, so it wasn't like high, tech type of stuff that we were doing. So it was easy to do that. And, we worked with, individuals like veterans and seniors, individuals with
Mhm.
disabilities, our returning citizens. And that's how we started, like a platform, which is now why workforce development is like one of our bigger pillars. But that's how
Partner.
we started. That's how we started.
Mhm. That's awesome that were able to do that as far as blending and partnering with like workforce development.
Hmm.
Because now, and I guess you can talk to me more about having owned several businesses,
Hmm.
what it means to be able to operate a business that answers a simple solution, but also to operate where you are able to connect more with the community
Yeah.
and provide not just a solution to those clients, but to affect someone's income,
Yeah.
to help someone get another opportunity. Um, there's conversations about I have the brother's name. This You may be connected with him on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I think it's Dr. Ken Harris, PhD, I believe, and he's with Urban League. He's a
Okay.
president, I believe, Urban
Okay.
League,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
boy, he has great conversation. And he talked yesterday about Dr. King's vision.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't talk about some of his last days, the conversations, how he was saying that I believe I led my people, leading them into a burning house,
Mm.
right? Because it's more to just being a part of this, it's teaching and
Yeah.
educating
Yeah.
independence.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Like, not just blending. And then what I feel we've lost all that we had because we've so far assimilated into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does it feel to you, or what would you share with someone about the importance of actually really literally giving back to the community in the way that you're doing?
Yeah, I think it's so important that each one reach one. I really do. And I think that as we continue to see, if we have not already seen, no one is coming to save us, right? As they say.
Right,
So it takes
right.
a community effort. It takes, we just finished Kwanzaa, it takes that collective to kind of
Hmm.
work together and, to do that. And so if you're able to provide a job, you're able to, volunteer, you're able to, so whatever it is that you may do. So not everyone is able to do it through workforce. That's our way of doing it. But there has to be a way that when we come into these communities and we, start businesses, that we're not just taking, but that we're giving. My background is more into like that, even though I went into insurance, like I went to school to become a social worker. So that is really
Okay.
important to me as an immigrant from Jamaica. It took a community. It took a community for me to get to where I am now, to even get to college, throughout the bullying and everything else like that. So I already intrinsically know the value of like community impact.
Hmm.
Well, very important.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. What, when we look back over, everything that you have accomplished through the business, and what are some things that you would, I guess, let me ask it this question this way, you know, building the tech enabled platform,
Mhm.
I can only imagine all the things that you've done to do that. What has been one of the hardest leadership lessons you've had to learn as a founder?
Mm. I would say one of the hardest leadership lessons I've learned. So I will say, I will say, like when you do leadership things, and so you take those assessments. And
Hmm.
so my personality is one of those like high D personalities. And of course, it shows up in different ways in different assessments. So I'm kind of like the numbers, obviously, insurance and that thing. I'm like the numbers person. I just need the answer. I don't need the
Give me the
fluff,
facts.
anything like that. So I would say it has been a mixture of working with different personalities,
Hmm.
and as well as being more what is more important to me is how things are done or that it get done, right?
Right.
Because I
Okay.
had to kind of let that go of like, now of course we definitely want quality and consistency across the board, but I
Hmm.
realized that there are people who do things differently.
Hmm.
It still gets done effectively, and so I had to let go the concept of like ABCDEFG. And so sometimes, when you do how you do it, it may look different to me, but I'm like, okay, it still gets the job done. And so that was the thing. And then, of course, dealing with different personalities and, just making sure that I just wanted to be an effective leader. I do have management. So we do have an operations manager, because I realized that managing is a different skill set in itself. Leadership,
Yes.
I'm working more towards that, but management is a whole different thing. So I was like, definitely bring in someone to do that. But yes, so that was one of the lessons that I learned.
Well, and how did you transition? Did you say, okay, wait a minute? Like you said, you asked yourself those questions. Was it something that you read? What inspired you to be open to that? Because a lot of times when we work a lot, and I know you do as well, you communicate with individuals. For me with my business, helping people with branding, we do the holistic part, so it's you want them to get the picture, but sometimes people are married to things that don't necessarily serve them anymore, like
Yeah,
having to evolve,
yeah,
right? Having to evolve. What was it that inspired you to do that, if I'm
yeah.
being clear with my question?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand.
Hmm.
So a lot of it comes with, obviously maturity in life and growth and that type of thing. But
Hmm.
another part is that I realized that, and just when we talk about like this leadership aspect, that I am like the business, like it is because of the team, right, that we have. And
Hmm.
so I have to make sure that we build a culture that celebrates that, the diversity of the team, the
Hmm.
different ways that they learn, the different ways to incentivize. So it was books, about leadership that I did read, but also just seeing it, just in my face. Like, I want to keep, it's all about like, we talk about keeping the customers, but I want to keep the team as well. It costs more for me to have to hire and keep on bringing people in than it is to
That's
create an environment where people want to stay. Right.
that's
And so the
that's
same thing with our customers is the same way with our team. And so I had to learn and be honest with myself, about my, my skills and my weaknesses and my strengths and, bring in help where needed. So it's a mixture of both, but definitely some leadership books as well as, just being honest with myself and transparent with myself.
Wow, wow, that's great. Because we say, leaders are readers. Not all leaders, say what it said, leaders are readers, but not all readers are leaders.
That's
What
right.
what book, what is one of your favorite books that stands out and that you say has really helped you in business? It could be something you read in the past or something that's helping you now.
I would say one of my books that I'm looking at it would be The E Myth.
Ah.
The E Myth. that was one of the reasons why I said, like, early on I decided I need a team, because I realized not only that can I not do it by myself, but I
Mhm.
also want to make sure that I don't build another job for myself,
That's
right?
right.
So I want to
That's
make sure that I can come and do interviews like this and not have to be like, all right, I gotta go there because I gotta do this, that I can go away for a while. I've been
Mhm.
working hard for a while, and so I wanted to build a business that can still stand if Hyacinth is not there.
Mhm.
So the E-Myth definitely, taught me those principles and make sure that, I understood how to do that and building a team. So for me, it's all about the team.
All about the team. Okay, I love it. I love it. What would you say it's on the horizon? I mean, you right now with your service, you can tell us a little bit how it works. We understand it's subscription based, and then
Uh-huh.
and then from there, tell us where do you see other opportunities. We saw if you go to her website, she's got all kinds of products there there as well. I mean, I love seeing businesses do that, solve a need, and see where, oh, okay, you need a laundry spray. We got you. We can do
Yeah.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
your house is tore up from the flow up. We can come help you organize that. I
Mhm.
love that.
That's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
I would, yes, I would say the first thing is that want everyone to know that we don't only just do laundry, we do dry cleaning and alterations as well. So anything that has to do with fabric and linen, we're here for you. We also not only work with just busy individuals, but we work with, companies as well, like gym spas, hotels, universities, airlines, department stores. So we've expanded our reach as well as open up into different areas. So we now service Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia, Cleveland, Atlanta, and we just recently opened Houston as well. And so it's about convenience, right? We're now in a world where people are used to things coming convenient. Like I said, the Uber, the Instacarts, the everything like that. People are used to delegating now. So people have nannies and they have someone that does the lawn, and they have someone that meal preps and all those types of things. So our service kind of fits right into that. But of course, dealing with that dreaded thing of laundry that nobody really wants to do. So we don't want any stress. We make it really easy for you to sign up. It's like a, couple of clicks, and then you can schedule. You can either push it outside, and we pick it up and we handle it with care and bring it right back to you. Our pricing is very transparent, so there's no hidden fees or anything like that. So you know exactly what you're paying. So we just want to be a reliable partner when it comes to how you manage your home, because we understand that people want life to be easier. That's really the bottom line. You just want to, a more easier life, and we're here to do that.
Right, because the way it is, we have to keep working to keep everything
I
going, so nobody has
know,
time to
yeah,
really do those things that, somebody
yeah.
might enjoy doing their own laundry, right? And
Mhm.
but they just don't have the time, like you said, to
Exactly,
do it.
exactly. It's the time. And we feel like you should never have to decide between clean clothes and a good night's sleep. And that's what we were seeing at the beginning, is that people were staying up to do it because they had like a long day, and then like the kids need the clothes for the next day and all this stuff. And I need that one shirt to go to this interview or whatever it was. And so we're here, and we made our services on demand. So we're available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Oh, I love it. And so is it someone can just does it take a 24-hour turnaround, or they can do rush service as
Yep.
well?
Yep. Same. We do same day, next day. So our standard is, 2 days just because of the volume that we get, but we also can do same day and next day. So we understand sometimes you just need it now. And that comes a lot with like, like our comforters,
Mhm.
bed sheets, those types of things. We know like, okay, I need them tonight, today so I can finish, putting them back on my bed. So yeah, we definitely do.
I love it. I love it. So what plans do you have for the future?
Yes, yes. So the future is really bright for us. So now we're into implementing our services on college campuses, because we know our babies, same thing, and so we have Dorm Fresh that we're unveiling like fall of 2026. More cities that we're looking at to expand into, and of course using AI agents. So it's like you said, it's not so much about replacing, but making sure that we're being more efficient with our time. So we're building out AI agents that can spot and detect stains and do work orders and then train staff as well. So using it to our benefit just to make us, work better. So
Proper.
these are
Right.
some things we have. Yeah.
Right. Well, what I tell you, this has been an incredible interview. I
Thank
hope that you
you.
will come back because we
Of
have a
course.
whole lot of other questions that I was just thinking of. But what would you share with those who are looking to start a business or they have that idea that is something simple, like you've scaled into an incredible business? What would some sound advice would you offer them?
Yes. So the first thing is to always dream big.
Hmm.
Always dream big. I would have never thought 3 years ago that we would be where we are. I really just thought it was like a side thing that I was going to do. And so once I started dreaming big and I told myself, wow, I can really do this. And then I would always say, surround yourself with people who not only celebrate you, but are also there when you need them because that entrepreneurial journey, as we all know, is a very lonely journey, right?
Yes.
And so when you
Yes.
start having those feelings of isolation and sadness and just like, I don't want to do this anymore, you definitely need people in your corner that say, you can do this. And it's about taking one step at a time, sometimes one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time. Like sometimes that's how I have to do it. If I could just make it through the next hour, I'll worry about everything else after that, but let me just do that. And so that is what entrepreneurship is. It is not, and when never compare your journey to someone else's because we all have different ways of how we've gone through things. And of course, people only see the highlights. So they don't see the days that, I've been no sleep and I've been up all night, dealing with certain things. So definitely, well, I think that was more like three than one, but yeah.
No, no, no. Keep going, keep
Yeah.
flowing.
Yeah. Well, definitely. And know your numbers, right? Because we can have businesses and we could just be going, going, going. And then it's like we don't have the cash flow that it needs to kind of keep on going, right? So we don't want to have those, we call the grand openings and grand closings. So always be aware of your numbers and how your business is doing.
I love it. I love it. You said dream big, dream big, dream
Dream big.
big.
Uh-huh.
The circle. And we
Yeah.
talk about that often here, the company that we keep, right? I heard it once said, birds of a feather flock together. But
Right.
also the other part of that was they also fly to the same destination. And
Mm.
so, that is so key. And then don't compare your journey.
Yeah.
Don't compare your journey. That's right, because only God knows
Yeah.
how and when everybody's turn is
Right.
revealed. And
Yeah.
it's at different times. I'm sure things that you learn in your Allstate business, and your other businesses that you had, I'm sure it prepared you versus someone who might have had this idea and
Yeah.
didn't have the skill set to execute it
That's
because
right.
of experience from the businesses. So you
That's
can't
right.
compare. And then know your numbers.
Know your
Know
number.
your numbers. That's
Yeah.
the reality, right? Because
Mm.
sometimes we can get, like I said earlier, married to something
Yeah.
and we're married to ideas, but they're not producing the numbers. It's not a
Right.
matter of it's going to happen, but if we're not putting the right things in place,
Yeah.
it's like it's not a dream, it's a wish, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Right. Well, please let us know, Hyacinth. Make sure I say it right. Got a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Um, please tell us how everybody can get in contact with you. And I think I saw Canada. Did you mention Canada
Yes,
on?
we do have a small footprint in Canada as well, in Toronto.
Okay, all right. So please give everybody your information so those who are tired of folding clothes at midnight, they can call you and get it done.
Yes, yes, yes. So please visit our website at laundrybasketdelivery.com. And then, you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Laundry Basket Delivery. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Hyacinth Tucker. I don't think there's too many, so, but you'll find me.
Hyacinth Tucker,
Yeah.
none other than the number one entrepreneur today.
Oh,
We
thank you.
congratulate and celebrate you, sister, for
Thank
everything
you.
that you're doing. Thank you for listening to Wealthy Sistas Radio. This show is produced by Wealthy Sistas Media Group, where we believe meaningful work is built with intention through clarity, alignment, and thoughtful design. If today's conversation resonated and you'd like to learn more about how we work, details are available on our website. Until next time, thank you for listening.
The opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of our hosts, staff, or partners of Wealthy Sistas Radio.